What are the 5 essential elements of a legacy pathway? Now, I appreciate this is not a question that most people ask under a FAQ, frequently asked question format. I wanted to share this one because then each of the elements are usually where the questions are. But I believe setting up this 5 essentials for you will be of greater assistance when you go to look at the other questions that you might be asking. So it has very much a generalized perspective to this answer. If we've not met, I'm Stephen. I am about all things legacy. Now, with the 5 elements, what we have is strategy, plan, tactics, felt safety, and pathway. That's what we're going to be taking a look at. Now, at the end of the video, I will put out the 5 aspects or elements that I'm going to be mentioning with statement, and you can pause at that point in time. But let me just go over each of these components in a general way, as I said, and then there will be other videos that go into specifics on each one of them. So with strategy, it's really about the why and the what. The why would be is that there's a reason that you've set in motion, an intention, something that you want to improve, focus, or strengthen as you move forward with your legacy life, living your legacy life. And what you're going to do is then figure out what of my time, effort, and money am I going to allocate where? That's the legacy. Because when you bring that strategy into the foreground, start to interact with it, then what you're doing is you're leaning into the belief that there's something that others can learn from you, thus the gift of legacy. Also underpinning this is there's a sense of the philosophy, the truth that you have, and you're sharing it. And therefore you're hinting at what's of worth to you that you believe is of worth to others, and what you have found to be useful, of utility for yourself, and that may be the same for others. When it comes to plan, think of it as the document. Some people might use blueprint. And what it's doing is it's interpreting the strategies that you have into a list of statements that then become the tactics you work with. So it's sort of an intermediate between the strategy and the tactics, but you've got to document it because you need to have a touchstone, something that shows the evidence of where you're going, the action outcomes, because you're not necessarily doing your legacy by yourself. While I appreciate there's a unique journey, often what you're doing is legacy is an adventure together. So the plan is a way for you to record what's going on. And there's a lot to it that we sometimes forget about. And that's why we hear terms like legacy planning. Again, I'm going to open that up and take a look at it more. When it comes to the tactics, what you're doing is you're getting down into the specific how to, when, where. I use the term action outcomes. There are statements of what action you're going to take to get what kind of outcomes, and those statements are then measurable, whether it's quantitatively or qualitatively. But these tactics give you a sense of, step, action, action. This is where it is that you're going, again, for those who are going to interact with you. Also, it's a great way to look for mentors who may have done something similar you haven't. You need some support to be able to move yourself forward. And what it does is it allows you to lean into a sense of open communication as well. The fourth one is felt safety. Now, this is one that we tend to forget about. But in actual fact, it's reminding ourselves of the human element of what it is that we're doing here, not only living legacy life for ourselves, but living legacy life in our interactions, family and friends. It could be then recipients, contributors, supporters, depending on how big or small or wherever it is that you're going with it. And what I'm reminding you here, right, and I'm emphasizing this, is the psychological safety. Do no harm to self or others. When you're thinking about yourself, yes, the psychological safety. There is the psychological safety interacting with others. We broadly call that ethical values, how you interact with one another. And it's where you're connecting, you're understanding and valuing and allowing for that emotional processing. We have thoughts and we have emotions. And often we'll just go, well, this is what I'm thinking, but there's feelings there. And even if there's not just for yourself, maybe the person you're interacting with is expressing something around feelings and being able to lean into the felt safety aspect there. And the fifth one goes to the pathway, the legacy pathway, because that's what you're on. You're on a way, the path that you're taking. And it's continuous adaptive process. Adaptive in this sense, adoptive, adaptive. In other words, there are things you're going to adopt, there are things you're going to adapt. And in other words, you're going to take a look at others' best practices and turn them into your wise practices that make sense for you to keep moving forward. And of course, with this pathway, guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be doing some pivots and course corrections. You're going to do some edits to the strategy, the plan, the tactics. You're going to stay with and close to that felt safety aspect. So this pathway, there's a lot going on. And sometimes we forget that. We just go, just pass right through, take care of it. It doesn't quite work that way. And that's why I wanted to do this video, which is a bit more generalized approach, call it pathway. There's legacy strategy, legacy planning, legacy tactics, legacy safety. I can go into each one of them a little bit more. So which of those would you like to learn a bit more about? As you look at this playlist of 101 questions, you might find answers to your questions and or put them in the comments, whichever video seems to apply to where you would want some more interesting ideas. That would be great. So you'll notice that around you now is a couple of videos that are popping up, and what they're doing is suggesting something that you could watch next, and the playlists that are really great prompts for your journaling. So with that, always and in always, take care.